Hi, I'd like to speak with you today about my near-death experiences. Just a brief overview for those who have not watched some of my interviews. So I'll just give it a few minutes since we're just starting a live here for others to join. And then we'll get right to it. In the meantime, feel free to comment or message me with any questions you want me to answer about my experiences. Okay, well, we'll just get going with this then. I've had 4 near-death experiences. Each one of those has brought me different insight. My first near-death experience was when I was 7 years old. I went for a walk with my aunt, uncle, and my brother down to our quarry because my brother wanted to go fishing. So him and my uncle went to the one end of the pond, and me and my aunt went to the other end, about 20 more feet away. This end was where they had dug a quarry and struck a live underground spring. So it filled with water. It was about 30 foot deep. My family had built a pier out across the water, and so me being 7 and curious, I had to walk out on the pier. And so I was standing out there, and my aunt became concerned. She wanted to check on my uncle at the other end, asked if I would be okay, don't go too close to the water, all those kind of things. And I assured her I'd be just fine. I was just standing there watching. So she went to go check on my uncle. In the meantime, I am watching the water, and the way the light reflected, it was very mesmerizing. I kept like swaying. And then so I felt really compelled. So I moved to the other side of the pier to try to shake the glare of the sun. And I was watching it, and I felt the same kind of tug. The next thing I know, I was deep in the water, watching my body sink. I remember watching the bubbles coming up in front of my face and thinking like, oh my God, that's my air. If I take a breath in, I'm going to die. And as soon as I realized and came to the surrender that I was going to die, I left my body. I was above it, watching it sink. Slowly sink. I saw my aunt realize I had fallen in. Then I saw my uncle and my brother at the other entrance. My brother was thinking, can I get there faster if I swim or if I run? And I thought that was kind of silly in spirit because I'm like, I can't do that. You'll never make it. You don't swim that fast. And then my uncle was more like concerned about my well-being, and that, the guilt right away, like, they'll blame us, oh my gosh, so they came running. Meanwhile, my aunt, who can't swim and I can't swim, is deciding how she can save me. So she grabbed onto the end of the pier, and she reached out for me as my body was starting to float to the surface, so that she felt she could do that and not fall in. This was her thought processes. Meanwhile, I leave this scene, and as I get farther away, I see my mom back at home cooking supper. She's wondering, how long we'll be gone, and if we caught anything, those type of thoughts. And the next thing I know, I was in like this cloudy area with what I call source, God, the most amazing, brilliant light that you can imagine, like megawatt. You would think it would hurt to look at it, but you realize that you can, it's kind of like, and you look and you're like, oh my gosh, I can look at this. What is this? And I just felt this overwhelming love and peace. Not the love we know here. It's like a complete acceptance. It's like a parental love times a million. and you just feel hugged by it. It's this loving warmth, and within it there was this being that you couldn't quite look at that was emanating this light. Many call it source, God, whatever. All paths lead to source. So, and I was so enthralled with this, and the only thing I can remember is this argument saying, you have more to do. You have to go back. And I'm like, no, no, I don't. I'm sitting right here. You're not making me. This happened numerous times, and it was an authoritative male voice, and it was very loving but firm. You have to go back. You have more to do. Like, no. The next thing I knew, as soon as, I understood I had to go back, there was no arguing. I was in my body. And I was looking at my body, yet I was in and out. And I'm not sure. I know my uncle grabbed me, I think, from my aunt and carried me to shore. But there was no water in my lungs. There was nothing, but I wouldn't speak, I guess. I just nodded my head. And for a few days, I didn't. I think it was like the next day I finally spoke, and I told my mom what had happened. Because of my family's other spiritual experiences, they didn't doubt anything I had to say. And from there, I started having prophetic visions. I could read energy, lots of deja vus. I felt like I lived in deja vu because I believe, even though we remember things as they're needed for our current life path, but I believe I saw a lot of what was to come because I didn't want to come back to this trauma. I remember that. So like everything, I could see things coming. I could predict deaths, pregnancies, things like that. My second near-death experience is not one I have too much conscious memory of. My grandmother came to me in a vision a few weeks before this happened. I was pregnant. We had tried for years. I was almost 3 months along. And she came to me and she's like, honey, I'm sorry. This baby's not yours to keep. There will be more babies. Don't be afraid, but you can't keep this one. I promise things will be okay. And she was like, she showed me sitting in this clinic, and she showed me a calendar of the date, February 28th. Well, I ended up in the ER that day. They gave me too much anesthesia. I had to have emergency DNC because of pain and bleeding. I bled out. I stopped breathing. I had to be intubated. And I had the same type of things when I came to. I made him take me off the blood thinners and all these things. I mean, the thickeners and everything. And I felt the same weird disconnect and peace. So I knew something had transpired, and I was told in my later experiences that indeed, I had gone home for healing so I could have children. Due to some other things I'll get into, I wasn't able to have children. And the doctor actually confirmed this. He said, you had this baby so your body could straighten itself out. The systems didn't interconnect. So that was my second. My third experience, I lost blood flow to my brain. I was talking to my husband, and all of a sudden I just started staggering backwards. I fell against the door frame. I hit my head, he said, and I started seizuring. And then next thing I was unnaturally slumped over and not breathing. And when I was in front of my husband and my daughter, and it seemed for a few seconds to them, much longer to me, but that's how spirit timing works. There is no linear time in spirit. You can jump back wherever you want to. It's a long story there. But so I literally came to at that point right when they went to running to me, and I literally felt my body jerk. I was like, oh! But meanwhile, while I was away, what I call away, I was visiting home. I was in what sometimes I refer to as Heaven City, which is like the area where our spirit guides and all the records are and try to keep us on path. So I went there. My conscious memory of it only so far is that I was sitting next to who I was shown was my mom. It didn't feel like her energy, and they thought, they were kind of contrite because I recognized that, and assured me, everything's okay. It was for your benefit, just to keep you calm so we could speak with you. And she tapped my leg. This is the only time I saw a body. I didn't see a body in my first experience. And this one I saw like a visual body. And she was tapping on my leg saying, it's okay. You've done enough. You can stay now. I'm like, no, I can't. She's like, well, I'll give you time to think about it. I'm like, no, my daughter needs me. I need to get back now. And then the next thing is when I literally jerked and came running, going, where's my daughter? What's going on? And the reason this is because I remembered a past life that I had with my daughter. In it, she was the same age. But I was her father, and I had been shot by 2 robbers, and I had made my way home and died in my wife's arms in front of my daughter. And this is significant for 2 things. It tells my daughter's story of why, she was always so concerned with losing me growing up. And it also, I was allowed to remember that because I had this severe pain in my right side under my ribs for most of my childhood. I kept passing out. I missed a lot of school. I went taken to a lot of specialists, a lot of tests. They never found any physical reason. It's because I carried that trauma, that energy from my closest lifetime into this body. So with that, the pain disappeared because I understood the trauma and was able to release it. My last death experience is kind of complicated, and I had stopped breathing in my sleep. I have some autonomic nervous issues that seem to act up when my hormones are higher, and I had quit breathing. I became aware of my body, and I was with actually what I call my soul family. It's the people you come here with because you carry a higher light that you can accomplish. If you learn from lifetimes that you work well together to accomplish the goals we set out when we come here. So I had seen them around me. Some people living, the rest I couldn't quite make out, but knew they were there. And they're like, if you want this body, you have to get back in it now. Like, how do I do that? How do I start this thing? But the main experience within that was, I remember we were talking how this came to be. Words manifest as do thoughts, especially with emotion behind them. Well, there was this post in the near-death experience group of lame days we died. It was supposed to make funny, lighthearted of all of our experiences. And I made the joke about Grandpa in his car being asleep, not like the rest of the passengers screaming. I said something about going in my... Yeah. And so they wanted to remind me at my level of light and things manifest faster. And I had basically created my death experience and to be more mindful. And I had to laugh because I'm like, human means the ditz. We don't remember these things when we're here. We don't. We're not mindful. A lot of us have forgotten who and what we are and what we're capable of. So within that, I had to restart my body. And because of the issue I had, they said I needed to swallow in order for this to happen. So I was half in, out of my body, and reaching for a drink. And they said I had to take a drink, so I did. The moment I did, it was like a huge kick in my chest, and I gasped like that of air, and then this huge, it felt like a horse kick, but not as hard in my chest. And then it was like a systems check. I say a system because our bodies are a vehicle that we experience the physical with. And I was checking out, all my body in this weird sort of scan. And I was then all my nerves came online, I want to say, and if you can imagine your hand falling asleep, times about 20, because your whole body going zzz. It was very painful, but only for a second. But that was the most intense experience, I think, of the 4, and the most learning. And I also had 2 people who validated that experience that were part of my soul family. One of them even contacted me the next day. He's like, I saw you last night, and this is what happened, you know. He knew something had happened to me. My other friend had seen me in a vision, dead in my bed. And she was also part of my soul group, and I had seen her there. So it validates that indeed there was quite an experience there for all of us. I think it was kind of like a shared death, perhaps. And I know some of you who watch these are familiar with those. From these experiences, I have learned we are creator beings. We're limitless. Our thoughts and words create when we put emotion behind them. So this is why some things manifest that we're not looking for. Because we worry over them, we look at them, we put so much emotion, like this could happen, that could happen, and then wonder why we have these experiences, and why things appear like we're being suffering and trauma. These are all things that we're not mindful of the choices in our thoughts. Mindfulness training is very important to stay in that now moment, where you're not looking at the past. The past just creates feeds it energy. It creates a loop that you'll keep creating those experiences that traumatize you if you keep looking back at them and not releasing it. Accept who you were in those moments. Take accountability and responsibility and let it go. Let other people go, because we're all playing a part. You need to let those things go if you want to move forward and manifest your best life. If we look to the future, and imagine that things could happen, same principle. We're worrying about things that may happen and creating those rather than the peace of the now moment. Within those, we have the capability to be in the void of creation. Everything is waiting to happen in the void of creation. It's all there in almost like freeze time, and waiting for you to match that vibration that these things come to you energetically. When we match that vibration, we draw those things we want for our best life. As far as words are light code. So how you use your words is very important. You'll notice with the English language, we have a huge propensity to have a negative connotation to those. We have more negative words in the English language than any other society. If you need to say things, say them in a positive light. Like instead of saying sick, say I'm healing from, or I am well. Instead of saying I will be this, say I am. Everything followed by I am should be positive. You are claiming that for your experience. So be very mindful that what you say is what you want to be. It's very simple, yet sounds complex. So it's very good to have positive affirmations, every day. I am healthy. I am smart. I am wise. I am healing. Whatever it is that you are working with, it's very important to have that. Another question I get asked a lot is how we perceive life. Like, your mindset creates your experience. So if you see things as suffering, they are going to be for you. We don't all live in the same reality because of our perception. Our perception creates our truth. So if we choose to see everything as a loving thing, like not a punishment, but an opportunity or a lesson, it changes the whole dynamics. And showing people with love instead of judgment, look at everybody as a loving soul and that they only are doing things out of love, you'll realize that you can't judge them and you can't hate them. You can't dislike these people because they're all mirrors of you going through the same things and the same experiences. They're literally you with a different face. It's all the same energy of source. We are source's thoughts creating and manifesting. So if you look at it from that perspective, that's where do unto others is do unto you as you do unto others. It's the same thing. Everything is reflected back at you. So what you put out there comes back to you. We have to be mindful of our energy, because if people are experiencing trauma or negativity and they're going through these things or directing it at you, you have to be mindful and protective of your energy. We can have empathy, but don't take these instances and attach to them. Attaching to the storyline creates this suffering. It is very important to look at it as a story. You're a character in a play. You're a divine story. The character may die, but the actor is eternal. And what happens to the character can't affect the actor unless he chooses it. You know, that's how this manifestation of reality works, how the energy works. Everything is energy agreements and how energy manifests itself. Once we understand that level of being able to work with energy, we can draw and pull things to us or dispel things. Like anytime you have a negative, unloving thought, it is not yours. You are picking up on things. We are loving beings. We are literally the creator, incarnate fractals of that source, which is love incarnate. So if it's a negative thought, you need to dispel it out loud. Say, you are not welcome here. You must go now. Dispel it from your experience. You are able to do that. That is the pinnacle of understanding your energy and that you choose what you wish to experience. I'm just going to double check if there's anything here. Okay, you guys are all here. Okay. Is there anything, any questions that anybody has or something they'd like me to speak on? I know I touched bases on a few things today. I will touch base on other things in future broadcasts, but I just think it's very important right now with what's going on in the world to realize you don't have to attach to that. It's very important that you don't attach to the narrative. Stop. What you feed your mind, you create. In the void of creation, everything exists at once. It's not a linear time. So what you're watching on TV and accepting as your reality, you're also creating at the same time. Quite literally. Okay? It very much, that's how collective consciousness creates. Okay? So if it's not something that you want to create for the world, if it's not a loving thing they're talking about, do not feed your mind these things. Because the more we feed these things, the lower vibration we're at. And the lower vibration we are at, the more we draw this pain, suffering, these ideas of lack and division. Division is huge in this illusion of this play we're watching. There is no division. There is no lack. Abundance is here for everyone. We are limitless creator beings, energy beings. All of this is a creation for our experience of our bodies. They're all mind constructs. And I'll get into that later stuff as far as how mind constructs work as far as creating the various levels that are beyond, that we can expand beyond what we see here. I've done it. I know those that have done it. Where you're living in both worlds, where you're living in that now of creation and able to bring those things into your experience that you are wanting for yourself. And the main thing you have to know with all of that is sovereignty. Every soul chose an experience. We are all sovereign souls evolving. So you cannot make choices or manifest things in the sense that you can't trespass on other people's will. Their free will creates their experience. Energy agreements is how we have shared experiences and shared reality. So you have to respect that you can affect another's will, no matter what it is. Prayer helps because it's putting positive energy towards whatever intentions they are reaching for. Intentions, prayers, whatever you want to label them as, that's how they work. They're literally seen on the other side as like light bubbles or notes coming up, like musical notes, various other things people have, but they're like an energy thought bubbles into the divine in the void of creation. So they're kind of like putting your intentions. So it's very important to put those positive intentions out there. I think unless there's any questions, I'm going to wrap it up for today. I thank you for joining me, and I hope that you realize that you are a limitless creator being, and you can have and manifest anything you want to achieve. There are no limits. Do not be afraid. You are loved unconditionally. You are always, always safe. Nothing can harm you. Just walk through it. Take what you want. As far as what you want to create for yourself, it's there for you. It is waiting in that void. Just believe it and know that you are worthy of it. Have a very blessed day.